Good evening, everyone. This is the Tribe Called Success segment of the Cavalcade of Authors Reader Appreciation Weekend. We're going to give you a little taste of who we are. And who I have on my screen with me is national bestselling author, Shakir, national bestselling authors, Shakir Rashan, Joy Campbell, Lisa Dodson, and we have people who are new to the tribe. We got Florenza Denise Lee, and we've got Michele Sims, an award-winning author, and we've got Stephanie M. Freeman, and I am Naleighna Kai, the USA Today bestselling author of several controversial novels. And we're going to do a little bit of something, give you a taste. And they don't know who I'm going to call on first, but I probably should call on this voice because you just heard from him doing the interview with Jan Jan Untamed. That was an awesome interview, people, wasn't it?
Yes,
Awesome.
that was fun.
Okay, comes on the heels of having the two religious folks ahead of time. So I thought that was a good balance. So she was awesome. Shakir, why don't you hit us up with a little something?
That's perfectly fine. I'm going to start with the opening scene from In Service to the Senator, my political romance thriller, romantic suspense thriller. This is from the beginning scene where the senator's wife was kidnapped. So let me go from there and we'll start. The bustle of the travelers inside Los Angeles International Airport was especially brisk this particular morning. Several flights made their approach in such a manner that one would have thought they were in concert with each other, their synchronicity presenting the imagery of the most graceful ballet. The passengers of the flights groaned as they took a collective look at the potential bottleneck at the baggage claim area, a few of them not looking forward to having to jockey for position to get their luggage before moving out into the city. Outside of the reception area of the concourse, an anxious crowd awaited to greet their loved ones. As the weary travelers emerged from their high security areas, some were swarmed, their embraces lending to the idea that it had been some considerable time since they had seen one another. Others engaged in more intimate public displays of affection, so much so that some of the children's eyes had to be shielded from the spectacle. Not far away from where these reunions took place, a man sat silently in a corner, perusing the LA Times. To the untrained eye, it looked like the information in the paper had his complete attention. Even to someone trying to pay closer attention to him, it seemed he was completely oblivious to his surroundings. However, to the skilled professional, it was a ruse to shield his ability to people watch and take notes of the sea of faces as they hurried about toward their destinations. Could he have been waiting for someone near and dear to him too? The pensive expression awash over his face gave no indication, as he was content to remain as unassuming as possible. He continued to glance between the pages of the newspaper and the throngs of people consistently flowing from the concourse areas, waiting for someone, or possibly no one at all. But there was no real way to decipher the accurate assumption. His eyes widened as a striking brunette with blonde highlights, dressed in her flight attendant's uniform, emerged from the escalator, her red-bottom heels and small suitcase dragging in her hands. Her strides were long and graceful, her gait reminiscent of a dancer or a model's rhythm. It was almost arrogant, but a regal type of arrogance, one that caused stares in her direction, whether she meant them to occur or not. He found it odd that a flight attendant would adorn in such stylish, extravagant footwear. The salary would not have supported such a purchase without hardship. He didn't rule out the possibility of a benefactor who might have indulged in her shoe fetish either, but he was almost certain that the third option in his mind made her the person of interest that he had been pursuing. Just by admiring her figure, the assumption would turn to the fact that she was very conscious of her appearance, perhaps a fitness model in her spare time, and a closer attention to detail would showcase specific tautness to her figure. He was especially enchanted by the richness of her skin tone, its mocha latte bronzed radiance evoking the possibility that she was returning from the Polynesian paradise mere hours away from the city of angels. Her legs and ample assets did not capture the imagination. The swell of her breasts, no larger than a C cup perhaps, would more than make up for the fantasies that could be conjured while in a brief moment of isolation. If he were honest with himself, it would be almost criminal not to indulge in such a guilty pleasure. As far as he was concerned, she had the body built for pleasure, but that was not what he was there to observe. His objective now in sight, he left the newspaper on the chair, beginning his pursuit. Perhaps she didn't spot him as she made her way to the parking garage. However, he didn't close the distance between them, ensuring that she was not alerted to his presence, or at least not yet. He couldn't stop ogling at the sway in her tight round hips as she quickly made her way to her car. It was nearly hypnotic, casting a spell that he was unsure he could escape from. After placing her suitcase in the trunk and slipping into the driver's seat, she loosened her hair, tossing the rubber band that tied her luxurious mane into the ponytail out of the window. It was her transition protocol, her way to move from the professional woman flying the friendly skies to the wanton slut, ready to fulfill her sir's desires, foreign or familiar. She made a call as she slid into the driver's seat, speaking sweetly to the woman on the other end, promising that she would be at her destination within the hour. Her girlish giggles lent to a more seductive connection with her, her faint coos giving rise to the anticipation of a rather carnal interlude that seemed long overdue. Meanwhile, he continued his surveillance and pursuit, lying in wait for the opportunity to strike. Her cell phone diverted her attention again, this time from the meticulous application of the makeup on her face, her lips widening into a smile over the person trying to get in touch with her. She tried to synchronize between finishing her makeup and making sure she was absolutely stunning for him with answering her phone at the last possible moment to hear his voice. She was aroused at the mere thought, squeezing her thighs together to quell the heat she knew was rising to the surface. To her dismay, she was unable to answer before the call dropped. She was a bit nervous once her voicemail sounded off, but those fears were soothed once she heard the smooth baritone sound of his voice. Daddy loves you. Can't wait to see you sexy. Leah already has the room ready for your arrival, and I'll be there within the hour. Make sure you prepare my property in the manner that I know you'll be capable of the moment you get through the door.
Well, all right then. Indeed, indeed. So I am going to bring up our next person, and I'm going to show the screen so they can be paired. Hold on. Here we go. Stephanie.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, it's going to be reading from Nature of the Beast. And hop to it.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. This is from my book, Nature of the Beast. It's the third in my Diamonds, Blood, and Shadow series. And it's from the perspective of one of my favorite characters. So here we go. Hush now. You're dying. The golden hour has come and gone. And with the extent of your injuries, the recovery would be a slow and painful process. But you're in luck. You're in luck. Mercy is my specialty. Now, we both know that licking your lips to lubricate the lie was the first mistake. And please, excuses are little more than the truth turned inside out. So many apologies, but they all go against the grain. May I join you? Not in dying, silly. That's your job now. The previous one I gave you, well, can I be frank? My name is Kevin Francis Greer, but in discussions like these, honesty and nicknames do go hand in hand. You think I'm a monster, and you're right, but I wasn't always that way. When I was 10, Mama held my foot to a hot plate for some real or imagined slight. Papa watched from his gray recliner in the living room, inhaling the acrid smoke from the cigar he lit with a match. Wooden ones were the best, as the tobacco burned evenly. Lighters are infinitely more personal. Unlike the red coil feasting on my heel at the time, the hot plate with its lone eye worked as desired, if not as designed. The orgasm that leapt from me left quite the mess on the maroon shag. Mama's disgust became my inspiration. Papa's pride was my muse. Music, like pain, is an acquired taste, unique to each person. Your short, shallow breaths remind me of a young Vivaldi or an older Beethoven. Both were poets for the dead, and so am I. The assignment was simple, Endicott. Follow Willow Daniels. Make yourself indispensable to her. Protect her at all costs. You see, the MacGuffin under her skin is more valuable than gold or flames. Lost in the folds of her mind is an answer to a question I asked 40 years ago. Nearly killed her in person when I asked her in person. My passion got the better of me, I'll admit. But pain does make a captive audience of us all. Nothing seemed to work on the boy, though. Peppering him with questions with each slice did nothing but solidify his resolve to remain silent. Sirens wailing in the distance cut my interview and their date short. My ex-wife was neat in her grave nigh 10 years. Such a cunning little beast she was, hiding our son. Adopting him out was a stroke of genius. Hot plates and cigars were not part of his future. Short money filled my bolt holes and bank accounts to the brim. He would have been a god among insects. So much to tell him, so much to share. A dream deferred, to be sure. But Endicott, you failed so horribly. Thinking is a chore for mammals like you. Romance was not part of the job description. It's why the scent of your aftershave was replaced by the fragrance of charcoal and burning flesh. Of course, of course. I'll dab away the tears spilling from the corner of your eye. As I stated earlier, mercy's my specialty.
And that's from Nature of the Beast. And these are standalones, so they can read these in any order now, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Let me show it one more again, and then I'm going to bring up the next person to get their reading in. Oh, Nature of the Beast. I love that cover.
Thank you.
All right.
J.L. Woodson did a phenomenal job on it.
Oh yeah, who was that? I have no clue who that is.
I'm sure. I'm J.L. Woodson. Awesome graphic artist.
All right. Well, let's bring up one of the favorite ones you like to hear, because let me ask to unmute. Please make sure you keep looking at the screen, because there we go. All right. So let me share the screen, and this will be the next person up to bat. J.L. Campbell. Her new book that just came out, what is it, 2 weeks ago? Sacrifice, Virtues and Vices, book 2. They're all standalones as well. We tend to do that even when we write a series. It's standalone because we want you to read the next one because you want to, not because you have to. It's grown writing stuff right there. So JL, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everybody. I am, as Lisa said, I'm sharing with you from Sacrifice. And Sacrifice is about a couple, a married couple, who lose their daughter. It's Christian fiction, but it's a long, arduous road, and things happen, and the couple, they don't do very well in handling their grief. In this segment, Sophie, the female, she had something that she shouldn't have had. She's taking these pills and she comes home and she's not very well. And her family is there, and the family is a big part of their problems. So now that he stopped to think, Dane could also breathe. The sight of Sophie on the floor stopped his heart and made him think he'd been a fool. No matter that they weren't on the best of terms, his first priority was the queen of his heart. She was his and he was hers, and he'd do anything to protect her. Despite Arthurine's protest that she needed to be near her baby, Dane requested that she leave the house and take Ashley with her. They had orders not to return for at least a couple of hours, which would give him the time he needed with his wife. Whatever family business they had going on, they could sort it out elsewhere. He made quick work of cleaning up the bathroom, filled a bottle with water, and went back upstairs. Sophie wasn't in the bedroom when he stepped inside, but he heard her moving around in the bathroom. He sat on the bed and waited until she appeared in the doorway. She had showered and was now wearing a pair of shorts and a t-shirt with the word Super Mommy across the chest. When she stood before the dresser, he met her gaze in the mirror. "I thought I told you not to move." Her gaze shifted to him and she said, "I know, but I couldn't lay around smelling of vomit, so I showered." Dane put the bottle by his ankle and got to his feet. He was taking a risk, but let his instincts lead him. He walked up behind Sophie, who turned and allowed him to embrace her. Her head rested against his chest, and as the seconds ticked by, her arms went around him. For the first time in ages, Dane felt as if he was home. No acrimony, no arguments, no grief. Just him and his woman in their space, the way they had been before life intervened and everything grew complicated. He pulled back and cupped Sophie's face in his hand. Her eyes were large and held shadows of insecurity that crushed his heart. Pity they couldn't hit a reset button and undo the many hurts they had inflicted on each other. But they had this moment, and he was going to do all he could before her family intruded again. He kissed her forehead and lifted her chin. "You look like you're feeling better. Do you know what you ate today that didn't agree with you?" Sophie lowered her gaze and sucked in her breath. "I had a hamburger and a milkshake." He pressed another kiss to her forehead. "You had the whole hog, huh?" Smiling, she nodded and said, "I felt for something different, so that's all you had?" he asked. Something shifted in her eyes. Then she nodded. "I guess my system's not used to that heavy stuff all at once." This time, his lips met hers, and she released a minty breath against his skin. She wasn't being truthful, but Dane didn't press her on it. He wondered whether she was still taking the antidepressants. The fact that he didn't see her swallowing them didn't mean that she wasn't taking them. He'd noticed that since returning to work, she had stopped mixing up the gunk sandwiches, as he called them. Whenever she was running late or when he felt like it, he used to prepare them for her. But with a creeping sense of shame, he realized he hadn't done anything nice for Sophie, whether small or large, in some time. Her change in diet concerned him because, unlike everyone else, Sophie was careful about what she put into her body. The battle with her weight had been constant because she believed, as a dietitian, she should at least look like she was practicing what she preached. Dane didn't care that she used to tote some extra pounds, as she put it. He loved and accepted her the way God made her. Her lush curves were part of what attracted him when they first met, and his views had not changed. He decided that if she needed him to support her by eating better, he'd do that. It seemed as if she'd given up eating properly along with everything else. He led her to the bed and waited while she got in. When she was comfortable, leaning against the bedhead, he handed her the bottle. "Here, drink this." Without question, she flipped it open, brought the straw to her lips, and with her eyes closed, she drank all the contents. "That was good. Thanks. Did you need anything else?" he asked, placing the bottle on the bedside table. "No, I'm good." He switched on the television with the remote and climbed into bed beside her. They had so much to discuss, but he wanted to keep her in a relaxed state of mind. He eased one arm around her and stopped scrolling when a home and gardening program filled the screen. Sophie used to enjoy watching them while he was engrossed in reading. "I've missed you, Dane." She laid a hand on his chest. "And I've missed us." "You're not the only one," he said, covering her hand with his. "I can't figure out how we got here, though." Before he spoke again, he weighed his words. I guess we're in a different season and need to figure out how to navigate to the other side of the mountain and then cross the desert to wherever we're supposed to be. She tipped her head back to look at him. What do you mean exactly? Again, he thought about what to say, and that saddened him. He felt as if he was picking his way through a minefield. I feel as if since this was part of the challenge that faced them, he couldn't even call Nyla's name for fear of setting off Sophie. Plus, each time he thought of Nyla and how his marriage had degenerated, it was as though he was digging through layers of his psyche he did not want to acknowledge. I feel we keep going around the same mountain 40 times with no results to show for the efforts. I get that, but it's so hard to deal with everything, and I can't figure out how I feel. How am I going to talk to someone else about it if I don't know what I'm experiencing inside? That's it right there. I used to be here for you before he forced himself to continue, before we lost Nyla. Sophie swallowed hard, blinked a couple of times, then she broke down in tears. Here endeth the reading.
Oh, indeed. Thank you. I know Stephanie is in heaven. She loves your accent. She's like, I could listen to her read. And it's funny that people love Stephanie's accent. So everyone has a love of different tribe members for different reasons, like Shakir, his deep voice, and Michele when she has the music in the background, and Florenza that she just, but this is my first time. You're not a virgin anymore, girlfriend. And then Lisa with her journalist delivery. She's like, yeah, I'm with that. That's cool. So I'm gonna switch it up a little bit. So let's see who's gonna be next. Bam! Go figure. All right, let's roll with the first in the Knights of the Castle series. It's a standalone series. You can read it in any order. There's 9 books in the series, but this is the first one, and it is King of Arabia, and it's about a woman who goes to the fictional area in the Middle East called Arabia with her class reunion, and she ends up with more than she could handle. So I'm going to start it off from the first chapter. You risked your life for my grandson, Sheikh Ayan said, his voice echoing through the ornate throne room. Ask for anything and I will see what can be done. Well, to be honest, I haven't wanted much, she said with a nervous laugh. And the only thing I don't have is a husband. But I'd love to have a place here in Arabia where I can come and go as I please, if that is at all possible. Done, the sheik said, beckoning to the man who had visited the hospital twice to see about her condition. Cameron, come. Wait, what? She laughed and rested a hand upon her ample bosom. Yeah, okay, right about there. An apartment? Really? No, your new husband, he answered with a grand gesture that would have made Vanna White proud. This is my oldest son. The man was drop dead gorgeous. Olive complexion, dark hair, goatee neatly trimmed to perfection, and piercing brown eyes that missed nothing. He was more suited to a fashion runway than a palace. Truthfully, she wasn't sure if it was the tunics, the neat beards, the head coverings, or what, but Arabia seemed to have no shortage of handsome men. But the sheik's son was a masterpiece, exuding the kind of confidence that came with a man who was certain of his place in the world. His gaze swept across her face with a complexion slightly darker than his olive tone, then quickly covered the distance over her curves. Then his lips lifted in a warm, appreciative smile that practically lit up his dark brown eyes and sent heat straight to places that had been dormant since the Queen of Sheba caused King Solomon to lose his entire mind. Elena shook her head, clearing her mind of all manner of wickedness that came after that wonderful assessment. I think you misunderstood. I was joking about the husband part. You know, the apartment, timeshare, condo, or whatever you all call them over here. That's all I really want. You will have both, the sheik commanded, with a nod of finality no one would dare question. A husband and a place here. My son needs a wife, and you mentioned you do not have a husband. Problem solved. But doesn't he have to give you heirs or something like that? She instinctively brought her hands near her belly. Yeah, okay, right here. My eggs are old enough to be married and have children of their own by now. First, a roar of laughter went up from him. A few minutes later, it was mirrored by everyone standing around her. Yes, that line was funny, but the one thing that she understood was the unfairness of the situation, at least for Cameron, and that was no laughing matter. The sheik waved away that thought. That will not be a concern. He is unable to give you or any woman children. And a woman of African descent will never sit on the Darabian throne. We are safe on that score. A shadow of sadness flickered in Cameron's eyes, and his skin flushed a shade darker. Elena tried to read a deeper meaning into his father's words. She still came up with unfair. So you just throw him to a random woman because he can't give you an heir? He's still a man. He still has value, she insisted. A brain, intelligence, and a purpose. She inhaled, trying to tamp down on her anger. The apartment is fine, Sheik. Thank you. But I will not be foisted on a man who has no say in the matter. That is downright cruel. A gasp came from the core of people around them before silence descended in the room. Even Cameron flinched. The sheik's face darkened with anger as he slowly came to his feet. Are you refusing? Give me 9 days. All eyes focused on the handsome man who left his father's side and moseyed toward her like some type of Arabian cowboy, all swagger, no gun necessary. Give me 9 days, he repeated, and moved across the expensive Persian carpet until he stood in front of her, towering over her near 6-foot height by 3 inches of his own. 9 days for me to show you Darabia, to answer any questions you may have, to let you explore the place, the people, the culture. Then you decide. Elena let out a long, slow breath because staying here permanently, marrying him would be a lost cause. She loved her job as a personal assistant at Vantage Point. Alejandro Reyes, a fixer of everything from political and corporate espionage to terrorist attacks, was the absolute best person to work for. And she loved the predictability of her life. Traveling overseas was the most adventurous event in her life. Still, curiosity won out over common sense, and she said, all right, thank you. Now we go about the business of getting to know one another, he said, smiling as though her consent brought him much pleasure. Evidently, he wanted this to happen, and the intensity of his gaze bore into her soul, so that you can make an informed decision, yes? She glanced over his shoulder, taking in some of the envious looks as a few of the women tried to hide. Why are you doing this? She asked him. Why are you allowing them to serve you up to some foreign woman as if you have no value? Because I recognize this is God's will, he answered. And who am I to leave a precious gift unwrapped? Her eyebrows drew in as she tried to decipher the hidden meaning behind his words. The man had a peaceful, confident air, but also a playful vibe about him. Yes, that was a double entendre. His smile widened, and she could swear the heavens opened up and smiled with him. All she could think was, good Lord, I'm in trouble. That is King of Darabia. Let me show it again. I should have had one of you all share the screen, but here we go. Hot stuff, hot stuff. Here we go, King of Darabia. So let me bring up the next person. Let's bring a little heat on the situation. So we started with a little bit. Hold on, here we go. And we're gonna bring Florenza Lee up with a little bit of
heat.
Yeah, bring some heat. All right, let's go for it.
Okay, so I will be reading the first chapter of my part in Decadence. And there's an intro prior to it that I highly recommend that the reader reads. We're starting with chapter 1. As usual, the line was out of the door and nearly around the block at Josephine's, a restaurant in the center of Joy District. Ignoring their stares, Lena shifted a Grace leather travel case to her right shoulder, and Gypsy Zanatti heels clicked the cobblestone pavement. Where the hell does she think she's going? One raspy voice snapped. We've been waiting in this damn line for an hour. Unfazed, Lena strutted to the entrance and waited for the gentleman exiting the restaurant. She loved when doors were open for her. They allowed her to make a dramatic entrance. Lena paused to wave at the waitress, then continued past the sign in podium. No need for an escort. She knew the way to her table. Neo Soul played softly in the background as patrons engaged in conversation. Crystal glass clinked and silverware Crystal glasses clicked and silverware clanked as staff in heavily starched white shirts and fitted black bottoms hustled trays of food back and forth from the kitchen. Josephine coordinated the staff's bow ties and cummerbunds based on the seasons. Customers snapped pictures of their entrees before uploading them to social media sites. Placing her bag on the hook she had fished out of her jacket pocket, she said thank you to the waiter who smiled a bit too long as he poured her peach mimosa. When I grow up, I want to be just like you. You are grown, Lena shot back, repositioning her utensils near her plate. Not that grown, Cammy countered, as her right thumbnail nervously toyed with the raised mole on her collarbone, something she'd been thinking of having removed. I mean, who tells their husband that they are going out for Mexican food and ends up in Las Cobos? Or announces they're going for French fries and lands in Paris? Her left eyebrow raised upward. You know, they don't actually make those in France. Lena averted her gaze, putting it on the toned young server whose jeans fit so tightly around a well shaped button thighs they screamed for attention. Lena had previously noticed someone staring as she sashayed to her seat. Oh, and let's not mention pizza, Cammy continued in a dry tone. What part of Italy was that? Oh, I forgot. You were on research, right? Venetia, Lena answered, taking the last sip of her drink. See, that's why I don't tell your ass anything. You like to bring up old shit. They shared a laugh. The waiter came to their table and refilled their drinks, just as Eric Robinson's Borrow You echoed around them. Lena recalled the first time she heard that song. She and Cammy were tired of the books and headed over to a little hole in the wall near campus. People were everywhere, crammed in like sardines in a can. The energy was electrifying. Just as the chorus hit, a jock walked up, took Lena's hand, and crooned the words to her. Cammy burst out laughing because the imagery was comical. He stood just below Lena's breast. Cammy mimicked a helicopter as she patted him on his head and jerked her chin to the right for him to keep it moving. He grumbled but complied. You remember this song? Lena asked. Girl, that dude stood 4 foot even with his shoe inserts. I never even thanked you for sending him on a hike. Damn, I still owe you. As long as you owe me, I'll never go broke, laughed Cammy. Changing her tone, she asked, have you ever asked yourself why Malcolm doesn't want to travel with you? He's gone on a few trips, eyeing the plate of Cajun sauteed shrimp and garlic grits being taken to the next table. Besides, you already know the reason. Cammy has a shitload of young residents flocking behind him like baby chicks, anxiously observing his every move. Cammy twisted her lip with disapproval. Right. You know he doesn't have time for anything but work, Lena countered, then added. One of his days makes my entire week look lazy. Lena first met Malcolm at this very same restaurant. She observed him lounging by the fire pit, sipping single malt cognac. The sight of him took her breath away. Back then, he had hair, and his lineup was meticulous. He just looked like he smelled good and knew it. Malcolm's boys were puffing on cigars, hopping around, barking like new frat boys, but not him. Everything about Malcolm was refined. He quietly sat as he relished each puff from a handcrafted pipe. She missed the aroma of pipe tobacco. Lena couldn't stand the stench of cigars. Cigars were base and common, reminded her of juke joints and holes in the wall that weren't too far from no-tell motels. Pipe smoke was dignified and polished, bringing to mind country clubs and chalet sales along the bay. When had Malcolm started smoking cigars? And when had their romantic interlude spiraled from lingering hours on the beach to the wasteland of want in recent times? When had they stopped being the it couple? Cammy stroked a finger across the back of Lena's arm. Damn, girl, talk about trips. Where did you go? I can't tell if you were in pain or pleasure. Nowhere I'd like to revisit anytime soon, she said, suddenly mindful of the chatter and the background music that drowned out the need for her sadness to take a front row seat. Nina looked at the menu. Have you decided what we're going to eat? I know what you really need, Lena. Lips pursed, she tilted her head, then asked, and just what might that be? Your ass needs a fuckcation. Lena laughed so loudly she snorted. And what the hell is a fuckcation? Come with me and I'll show you. Lena locked eyes with her best friend. Oh, so now you're the travel agent? Lena gulped her drink, hoping her friend wouldn't catch on just how close to home her words had hit. Cammy opened her mouth to respond just as the waiter approached their table. Sensing he had interrupted, he turned and walked away. We're ready to order, Lena said in an even tone. I recommend the shrimp croton as an appetizer, he said as he pulled out his tablet. No appetizers today. I'll have Zia Cerviano pasta calabrese. Ooh, that sounds delicious, said Cammy, licking her lips. What's the soup of the day? Swiping his iPad. Lobster bisque, our house special. It pairs well with the pomelo pear salad. Perfect. I love the mixture of goat cheese, pears, cranberries, and walnuts in that salad. Seemingly aware of the unease that became part of the dense air surrounding them, Cammy attempted to make light of the subject by saying, it's been a while since you've come out to play. I know you must be missing it. Your skin is giving away. What do you mean by that? Giggling, Lena subconsciously touched her cheek. The only reason why your face would be looking like you're a 16-year-old boy is because you ain't getting any. Either that or Dr. Stankass ain't hitting that G spot right. So which one is it? Keep going.
Yeah, no, you done. You go to your room. Go to your room. You just man. Woo, child. You coming up with it with the heat early on in the game. I ain't mad at you. Let's cool it down. Woo, child. Let's cool it down a little bit. We're gonna take it down a little bit more over the pond a little bit. Got Lisa Watson here with Interview with Danger. All right, Lisa, set the stage for us. Where does she go?
There I am. There I am.
Okay.
I had to find myself. Okay, this is Interview with Danger. This is a scene where Sasha Lambert gets called to her ex-lover's house, Milo Georgopoulos. So she thinks they're going to be meeting to hash out something. So this is where we're going to pick up. A woman stood from her seat in an alcove and advanced. All the color drained from Sasha's face. Though she'd never met her, there was no mistaking who she was. Mrs. Georgopoulos. Hello, Miss Lambert. I'd wager I'm the last person you expected to see. The absolute last person. I thought I was here to, yes, that's how I wanted it. I had to assure that you would come. My husband is not in residence, but please sit down and I'll tell you why you're here. You know, I always wondered how I would feel when we met. Make no mistake, I had every intention of meeting my husband's lover, ex-lover. So I've heard. Still, you must have been extraordinary for him to stay with you so long. In fact, I asked Milo, what made you so enchanting? and why he hadn't tired of you sooner. He's such a short attention span, you know, and his criteria for lovers is much different from mine. The two of you discussed naturally, she laughed. There isn't anything that goes on in my family that I don't know about, Miss Lambert. I make it my business to keep current on my husband's infidelities. I find it better that way. I don't like surprises, and this ensures I'm always prepared. If you know about me, then you must be aware that Milo explained his marital status somewhat differently. It doesn't surprise me, but I assure you that our marriage is very solid. I'm not going anywhere, and neither is my husband. Sasha had heard enough. I can't say this has been a pleasure, but please hear me out. And why should I do that? I would think that given your association with my husband, it's the least you can do. Why do you deal with it? The question was out before Sasha could stop it. That question is easy. I'm not in love with Milo. Well, at least not that dreamy, romantic way people gush about. Ours was an arranged marriage. Our families have known each other for, since we were born. Milo's family wasn't as wealthy as mine, but their lineage was enough for my status-conscious father to approve. After we had children to ensure the line continued, we settled into our current arrangement. Milo has his dalliances and I have mine. I do care about him, but I don't care who he beds as long as he doesn't make a spectacle of my family. Nothing is more important than securing my children's future. Milo had a vasectomy years ago, so I don't worry on that score. There'll be no bastard children to threaten Paris and Calandra's inheritance. Oh, were you surprised to find out that he's sterile? How interesting. It doesn't matter, I could care less. Your expression tells a different story. Don't mistake surprise for disappointment. It appears you've got everything well in hand, so why am I here? As I indicated, I need your assistance. My husband's current plaything is causing quite a stir. Surely you've read about it. No, I haven't, but I've been rather busy lately. It appears there's so much he neglected to tell you. I heard you become a best-selling author, the crux of Milo's discontent. My husband can't stand not being the center of everyone's universe, but I'm sure you knew that. Is there a point to all this? The point is that I want you back. Excuse me? This new French woman he's betting is intolerable. Not only has she been fool enough to believe my husband's promises of fidelity, she's fallen in love with the paparazzi and doesn't hesitate to throw herself at every camera within 50 yards. Pictures of them are in every tabloid from here to Paris by now. That tat actually had the audacity to say that they were going to be engaged before the year was out. This I will not allow. A divorce is out of the question. I will not subject my children to a broken home. You don't consider it broken now? Why should I? Before this woman came along, my household and my husband were perfectly manageable. Because he was with me? You don't crave the limelight. You're very private and predictable, Sasha Lambert. Those traits work to my advantage. It allows me to keep my private life my own with no demands from Milo. And that's exactly how I want it. Too bad my husband couldn't see the forest for the trees. Mrs. Georgopoulos, I'm very sorry for any pain that I've caused you and your family. I was under the impression that things were different and that, yes, I know. I'm not surprised he lied to you, Sasha, but a divorce will never happen as long as I draw a breath. I can see that, but I can't help you. Can't? Nonsense. There's a cost for everything. Clearly, I haven't hit your price point yet. Let me be clear. If you help me get rid of Milo's latest toy, I will make you a very rich woman. I'm not for sale. Really? Since when? This conversation is over. We went through. Don't be foolish without truly understanding what I'm offering you. I know you're still in love with my husband. Why break your heart over a thing as irrational as pride? You will tell him that you've changed your mind and that this book career of yours is over, and leaving him was a mistake. That's not going to happen. Sure, it will. I'm giving you the chance to keep what you desire most, Sasha, Milo. And in return, I get what I want. That delusional trollop of his gone. I don't want your husband anymore. It was over the moment his deceit became clear. Oh, please. Everyone's deceitful at one point or another. You can't really be that naive, can you? You're the one who's naive if you think there's any way I'm taking Milo back, no matter what the circumstances or the number of dollars you wave in front of me. The spell's been broken, and I have both of you to thank for that. When I found out he lied to me and that the two of you weren't estranged, I felt nothing but remorse for my part in his being unfaithful to you. Save your pity. Everything I do is by design. His involvement with you was no exception. Clearly, I underestimated his machinations and yours. You know, the two of you are so well suited. Everyone else's needs pale in comparison to your own. Someone should have warned you about throwing stones at glass houses when you live in one, Miss Lambert. You knowingly had an affair with a married man and you think to lecture me? You're right, Andromeda. It was my fault for believing that Milo was what he told me was true, and that the two of you were estranged and that his marriage was over. Trust me, it's not a mistake I plan to repeat. I'd reconsider my offer if I were you. Up until now, I've been very accommodating, but I make one formidable enemy. If you don't give me what I want, a box full of dead scorpions will be the least of your worries. I'm gonna be sick. Sasha bounded out of the house, slamming the door behind her. Her head was spinning, and with every footstep she took, she grew fainter. With a shaky hand, she held her middle to stop the rolling in her stomach. She felt queasy and lightheaded, but she refused to embarrass herself any further by throwing up on the Georgopoulos' front stairs. Leaning against the car, Pierce was flipping through the messages on his cell phone when he heard the commotion. Glancing up, he saw Sasha swaying on her feet and sprang into action. Whoa, are you all right? No, not really, she croaked with a mixture of shock and disbelief. This whole thing was a ruse, Pierce. He wasn't even there. And how did she know? How did she know what? She mentioned the dead scorpions. How would she know? Well, you did mention it went viral. She probably heard about it online. Maybe she's the one responsible for the scorpions, the smoke bomb, and the threat on my bathroom mirror. She could have done all of it. Nobody would be the wiser, and I'd look more foolish. Pierce took her arm. Gently, he tried to coerce her to move to the car. Sasha, what are you talking about? And do you have proof? Other than her just trying to threaten me? No. Sash, it's obvious you're in shock. Gee, you think? How about I drive? Thanks, Pierce, but I'll be fine. Are you sure? Yes. I'm feeling better now. I'm fine. Let's just get and we're done.
Oh.
You said, so I thought that was my time.
It was, but because you missed the cue on your on your phone.
23 seconds left.
Yeah, right. Okay. So but you should have seen the faces of the other tribe members. They were like, that was hilarious. Thank you so much. Next up to bat is Amor Fair, Michele Sims. I love that cover. Oh, that cover is so hot in a bridal kind of way. All right, so let's hear it. Michele Sims is a new member to the tribe. I'm trying to unmute her. And
okay,
there we go.
All right. Well, JL did the covers for all of the More Fair, and I started off our reading, I guess, when we had our Halloween affair, and we had so much fun, we actually ran out of time. So I think I got about 20% through the story. But This is book 4, and all the books can be read as a standalone. The interview with Hildy McQueen, we started off with medieval Scotland, and I will be talking about modern day Scotland because many people don't believe that Africans, or actually the Moors, have been there for centuries. So having a history and being of African American descent, which I'm one of them, you still could be Scottish or Irish. It's very common. But anyway, we'll start off with chapter 1 of A Moor Affair. The perfect man, the perfect day, the perfect wedding, and what could possibly go wrong, especially after they took great pains to ensure that no one, including any of Miles's old flings, would ruin their celebration. Relax, girl. This is your time to shine. Bella tried to reassure herself as she placed a hand above her knitted brow and sighed while checking her to-do list. Viewing the packed schedule for today, hours before her marriage to Miles Ari Moore, caused her heart to race with excitement and anxiety. The luxurious Middleton Resort Ballroom in Glasgow, Scotland, the venue for their reception, buzzed with activity downstairs as the staff finished their final preparations for the facility's first big celebrity event. Lunch buffet with Miles and his immediate family, check. Bridal party mani-pedis with champagne at the spa, check. Wow, that was so much fun. A smile spread across her face as she peered at her French manicured nails and then lowered her head to look at her toenails, which were covered in a pearlescent polish, a light shade of blush. Final meeting with wedding consultant, check. Rehearsal dinner, check. Her phone vibrated and the name flashed across the screen. Joan Wahlberg, her mother, a proud African-American woman from Texas, had arrived in Scotland yesterday feeling the full effects of jet lag. Before leaving her home, Joan had contacted the paternal side of Bella's family, the Campbell clan, whom she kept in touch with after John, her beloved husband, and Bella's father had died. Many members of John's family still lived in Scotland and were happy to hear of the upcoming nuptials of one of their relatives to a famous hip hop star and media mogul from the States. Fixing her gaze on the screen, Bella smiled at the image of her mother, who was staying in one of the rooms Bella had reserved for family members on the floor above her suite. Hello, Bella. Hello, Mom. Are you sure you don't want to come to the Campbell family get together for a little while? They aren't expecting you to stay long, and the place they've rented isn't far from here. No, I think I better stay put. She looked at her nails as she spoke. Loud claps of thunder could be heard in the distance, seconds before torrents of rain came down outside of her window. This storm wasn't predicted to be bad, and your cousin Colleen Campbell said that it should blow over quickly. Please, honey, don't let the weather stop you from spending a little time with your family. Most of them hadn't seen you since you were a little girl. After warring with the idea of placing another event on her schedule, she decided against it, preferring to spend the time alone before the whirlwind of activities tomorrow that would change her life forever. Mom, you know me, so you get that I do better when I've had some downtime. She had retreated to her suite at the Middleton Resort for a much needed break moments before Joan called. Besides, I don't want to answer more questions about why Miles and I are rushing into marriage or hear superstitions about what it means if it rains on your wedding day. Is it good luck or bad luck? I've heard enough already. She sighed and saw her mother was frowning at her. People are curious. I also had reservations about your quick decisions to marry Miles weeks after you announced your engagement. But I came to the conclusion that it's your life and I won't stand in the way of your happiness. Sweetheart, I need to go and finish getting dressed if I'm to get there on time. Give them my regards, but before you go, I forgot to ask you about Mrs. Casper. How's she doing? Mrs. Casper had taken care of Bella when she was a child living in Texas. I saw her just before I left to come to Scotland, and you know her health has been failing. But she always found strength in her faith, and she was grateful for whatever time she had left. She sent her regards and told me to tell you that she loved you and prayed for your happiness. Several members from my side of the family are coming in tonight for the wedding, and let's be clear about something. I won't share with you any news I hear if Mrs. Casper doesn't make it through the night. And our family members have strict orders not to mention it to you. So don't ask. Why not tell me? Is there another excuse me, another superstition that if someone you love dies on your wedding, it's bad luck? Tears welled in her eyes. No, I don't believe in bad luck. A better question is why tell you if there's nothing you can do about it? Mrs. Casper lived a full life. She was well respected by others, and she loved you. That's all you need to remember about her on your wedding day. Honey, I really have to go. All right, Mom, I love you and have fun. Be careful out there. I will. Goodbye. Goodbye. She ended the call and looked out the window, framed with its heavy, ornate curtains drawn to the side. Before meeting Miles, she couldn't have imagined standing before a large picture window watching nature's display of power and fury without hyperventilating. The rain at times was blinding, followed by bolts of lightning spreading across the sky, illuminating the darkness. Just as suddenly as the rain had started to pour, drenching the landscape, there was an unexpected eerie stillness and calm as it subsided. Opening the door leading to her balcony, she smelled the ozone permeating the air as another line of storms made its way across the city of Glasgow. Her attention to the evening sky with its dark clouds was broken by the sound of her phone ringing again. She picked it up off the table and saw it was a call from Miles before she activated the speaker and video. Hey, babe, I needed to hear your voice. Hi, Miles. I thought you were preparing for your bachelor's party tonight. There's not much to prepare, and Parker, my dependable best man, is taking care of everything. Do you mean Parker, your partner in crime? They shared lighthearted laughter, making the roar of the thunder and cracks of lightning outside mere background noises. Is your mother with you? No, she left to attend an event with my father's side of the family. Why are you really calling? Is this something I should know about? Her heart rate quickened as she tried to brace herself for the news, good or bad. Nothing to worry about, his response was quick. I was concerned about you, that's all. She let out a breath she'd been holding and placed a hand on her chest. I'm fine, she reassured him as she looked out the window. Oh, I get it. You're worried I may be getting anxious because of the storms. Relax. Storms haven't triggered me to have a panic attack in a year. I'm glad to hear it. But you also seemed bothered by something earlier today. You aren't getting cold feet about marrying me, are you? His voice trailed off. First of all, about the storms. My fears are replaced with memories of you being there and comforting me during one of the fiercest storms Ellie had ever seen. Aside from that, how could I be anxious when I was sitting near you lusting after your sexy body? That night was a game changer for me. She observed his shoulders relax as he smiled and laughed with her. It warmed her heart to see his gorgeous face looking back at her. About the wedding tomorrow, I can't wait to claim you as my man and become your wife. I'm glad to hear it. And can I come up to the suite for just a little while? Miles, you know what's going to happen if you come. I know what I hope is going to happen. I need to make sure I'm not out of practice, for the wedding night. Can you help a brother out? He leaned into the camera, pleading with his eyes. It has only been a few days since we last slept together. I promise I'll reward your sacrifice. I wasn't planning on sleeping, Bella. Go and have fun with the guys tonight. I'm planning on turning in early, and I'll see you tomorrow. I love you, Miles. I love you more. Sweet dreams, and let them be about me and what I plan to do to you tomorrow. Her core heated and became moist with anticipation as she imagined all he could do to excite her. I can't wait. Goodbye. Goodbye, my Bella. She went to the drawer and grabbed a nightshirt before heading to the shower and then off to bed. This is a scene break. Shh. Bella tossed in bed somewhere in the twilight of drowsiness as she descended into deep sleep. Her body stilled as she focused her mind's eyes on the image of herself in a long white gown, the bottom of it wet and soiled with dirt as she stood before the image of a much younger Mrs. Casper, who looked back at her in silence. Am I rushing into marriage, Mrs. Casper? Am I making a mistake? Bella observed her image touching Mrs. Casper's arms. Please tell me. Bella waited for the answers, which in her dreamlike state felt like an eternity. Instead of an answer, she saw a transformation of Mrs. Casper growing older. Bella's plain nightgown with its lack of adornment changed into a beautiful wedding gown, filled with jewels and a crown atop her head. The image of the older, wiser Mrs. Casper finally spoke to her. Always remember, Bella, unto every life a little rain must fall. The image of Mrs. Casper blurred as Bella standing before her, wiped the tears from her eyes. Don't cry, my child. You've always been loved, and you know what true love is and what it feels like. Don't let your fears stop you from embracing your truth. Bella looked into the face of the woman who had loved and cared for her dearly as a child. The truth is, I love Miles and he loves me. I'll never let anything come between us. No matter what, always remember your truth, Mrs. Casper reminded her as she sent it high above her before she disappeared. Bella awoke with tears on her pillow. Goodbye, Mrs. Casper. Rest in peace. I love you, she whispered into the night as she slowly
Ew.
back to sleep, this time relaxed and at peace as she looked forward to becoming Miles's wife. She knew.
Okay, so we're going to bring up the next person. Yeah, you missed 2 hints. and I'm just saying, 2 hints. I'm about to cough up a lung, lady. Come on now. Oh, Lord have mercy. Okay, so we're gonna bring up the last one, and then we're gonna close this out. Oh Lord, that was hilarious. Lord have mercy. Okay, so y'all ain't no good, none of y'all. And we have one of the tribe leaders up to bat. This is MarZe Scott. I'm so glad she's here. She got in, she was out running errands. She's like, hey, don't leave me out. So
Right.
we're gonna read from her. And please know, I'm just saying, you know the drill. 10 minutes
10 minutes. I get 10. Hold on.
or less.
10 or less.
Since you coming in and pulling up the rear. You know,
Okay. Okay. So this story, Next Lifetime, is about, this is the expansion of the short story that was first published in the anthology Sugar. And it is about a woman who is best friends in a platonic relationship. So she has best friends with this man, but she is in an abusive relationship, and things kind of transpire where she has to lean a little bit on the best friend and how things work out for them. So it's kind of a second chance at love type of story. And I shall start with chapter 1. Love might be scary, but it isn't supposed to hurt. Food trucks and white tents occupied much of the grounds of Riverside Park. The normally quiet sanctuary, filled with large, lush trees and the sounds of a rolling river, bustled with the chatter of thousands of residents and artists. Excuse me. The Ypsilanti Arts Festival was the summer event that brought artists across the nation to sell their wares and carouse with the community. The aromas of fresh fried funnel cakes and sausage and peppers filled the streets. Kaleidoscope-colored masks painted on children's faces, live jazz performances, and bouncy houses brought the public together after summer vacations were taken and before school buses were scheduled to hit the road for the upcoming academic year. It was one weekend of season, it was one weekend that season violence wasn't seen nor heard in the small, tight-knit community, at least none that was considered newsworthy. Dalen Montgomery looked forward to the hot puffs of fresh cotton candy, buttery sweet kettle corn, and chilled homemade root beer every August. This event was one she and her mother made annually to end their summer of fun. She and Elijah Hargrove, the man who had held her heart since her sophomore year of high school, made it a tradition to kick off his birthday celebration on that weekend. Dalen winced as the pain shot through her hand. Her normally nimble fingers plucked a pink puff from the long white comb that held a giant cloud of spun sugar. Have a taste, babe. I know strawberry is your favorite. Dalen whispered with a hint of flirtation and a bit of trepidation as she lifted her swollen hand, placing the treat up to Elijah's full lips. The diamond chip on a tarnished silver-banded promise ring glinted in the sunlight as it squeezed the finger that wore it, the tightness serving as a reminder to never touch Elijah's phone, even if she recognized the number on the screen. Elijah's doe brown stare held on the rosy treat that trembled in his face, As he raised his hand toward Dalen, she flinched. With a gentle touch, he took her hand and kissed it. Opening his mouth, he consumed the delicate confection, his warm tongue quickly gliding the length of Dalen's thumb. A wily grin split Elijah's golden features as he held her gaze. Careful to keep her eyes on the only man she loved since high school, a restrained yet warm smile spread across Dalen's face as her heartbeat picked up its pace. "Thank you for everything, Day-Bay," Elijah said, lacing his fingers with Dalen's injured hand. He placed a kiss on her cheek, then another on her forehead as he rested his brows against hers. "And I'm sorry about earlier. I didn't mean to hurt you. I love you. I love you." Elijah was the first person to say those words who wasn't Dalen's mother. Her father wasn't around to say them at all. Her heart raced whenever he said them. If Elijah spoke them as she got dressed for work, it meant he was in a good mood and all was right in his world. When he moved his tenor voice into the baritone range, it meant he was ready for an all-night lovemaking session. Anymore, those words came at the cost higher than missing a few hours of sleep. "I love you too, Eli," Dalen echoed with a bowed head, trying not to loosen her hand from Elijah's despite its aching. "Hey, Eazy-E," yelled a man, his grizzly bear-like stature weaving through the thick crowd. The wind chilled as the man stood in the warmth of the sun and over Elijah's shorter than average, albeit athletic, frame. Releasing, I'm sorry. Reading from the screen. Releasing Dalen's hand, Elijah greeted the man with some dap, giving him a once-over. He stood a little straighter, stretched his neck, and lifted his chest. "What's good, Rello?" Elijah asked, sounding less than friendly. "I need to talk to you." Rello's bass voice rumbled as he glanced at Dalen, flashing a sly sideways smile. His grin traveled the length of her curvy body that was covered by a form-fitted, high-low crocheted halter top and fitted jeans. "I need your part of the money for the studio time from the last session. Don is on my ass about getting his payment, and I'm tired of taking the phone calls you should be getting." Elijah drew in a deep breath and huffed as he twisted the titanium ring with the pave set diamonds around his middle finger, a gift from his mother he never took off. Heat rushed to Dalen's cheeks as she glanced between Elijah and Rello. Confused by Rello's lingering gaze, a chill zipped up her spine as she looked to Elijah. Elijah peered at Dalen with narrowed eyes. His upper lip curled up into his widened nostrils. His golden face turned red as he sucked in another deep breath. Dalen recalled the last time Rello and Elijah were in the same vicinity. Elijah ended up spending a weekend in jail for assaulting Leroy Timmons, Rello's brother and business partner. Pretty boy Roy, as he was known to the streets affiliates, wasn't so attractive after Elijah brought up a swift uppercut to his jaw and a jab to one eye, leaving Leroy's cream complexion purple and scarred. Elijah found no problem with settling any and every disagreement in this fashion, especially arguments of monetary discrepancies. Dalen was certain that Elijah was still paying for the fines for that altercation. "So you feel good disrespecting me and my girl for this bullshit?" Elijah seethed, wriggling his fingers into a fist as he glanced at random people in the cheerful multitude before giving Dalen a side eye. Glancing over his shoulder, he stepped in so close to Rello, the quick-moving breeze from the nearby river couldn't pass between them. Rello leaned down, bringing unnecessary attention to the difference between his and Elijah's height. "I don't know anybody anything, my dude," Elijah said, gritting his teeth. His pulse was visible by the vein throbbing in his neck. "My business with the studio is handled. You can get my mixer back to me and step the hell off." "Come on, Eli," Dalen said, reaching for Elijah's muscular forearm. "Remember, we're celebrating." "Get off me," Elijah barked, glaring and jerking away from her touch. "Bet. Don said you'd flake and said he's ready to get his money out of your ass," Rella retorted with a throaty laugh as he stepped backward and his hands sounded like scratching of sandpaper as he rubbed them together. Taking one last glance at Dalen, he offered a sly grin. "Listen here, sexy lady. Give me a call when you're ready for a real man. You know, one that's got your back. This little dude." Rello took his eyes off Dalen long enough to level a steely gaze on Elijah. "He probably isn't giving you proper orgasm. I promise he ain't taking you nowhere. Besides, His days are numbered. Give me a call when you're ready, Day-Bay. Is he trying to get me killed? Dalen's dark eyelashes hit her manicured eyebrows. A pain hit her head as if Elijah landed a fist to her temple, an experience she's had before, but she lost her words as her mind scrambled to find the words to say to Raylo or Elijah for the offense. I'll give my associates your message, Easy, Raylo taunted, pointing a finger from each thick ashen hand. We're gonna get our money, know that. Turning on his worn tan steel-toed boots, Raylo joined the masses at the festival. People chattering as they passed by were the only noises that filled the otherwise speechless moment between Dalen and Elijah. Dalen drew in a breath, not making any sudden moves as she watched Elijah's rigid stance. Her face grew warm as the rhythm of Elijah's deep breathing and clenched fists was all she needed to know that a trip home anytime in the next few hours wouldn't be in her best interest. What was Raylo talking about, Eli? Dalen questioned, breaking the silence. What money does he think you owe him? Are you sleeping with him? Elijah snapped, leveling a hard gaze on Dalen. Absolutely not. Dalen stepped back, her face twisted, failing to restrain her indignation. What the hell is wrong with you? Sorry. I'd never be and have never been unfaithful to you. Why are you always... Shut up, Elijah growled. I'm ready to go. Well, I'm not, Dalen returned, being sure to keep her response soft. Catching Eli's brutal gaze, she encouraged, let's just finish celebrating your birthday. Nah, I'm good. I'll see you at home. Elijah stormed away, back toward the entrance of the park. Dalen shifted her stance and ran a hand through her sandy brown curls as she peered over her shoulder to see if anyone she knew witnessed the heated exchange. Reaching into her jeans back pocket, Dalen retrieved her cell. Scrolling down the screen, she found the name of the one person who never missed her call and tapped the phone icon. Hey, Dale, the tired baritone voice said, how's everything? Hey, Reese, I need a hug and a place to lay my head.
Good job, Rookie. Good job. Because you know that hook was coming next. I'm like, all right then. All right. Yo, forget y'all. Forget all y'all.
No, I heard that cough. I mean, you know,
and I don't know there's a way to be subtle about it because it's like Michele had to cough up a lung and she looked up, saw me, and then kept reading. Like, this woman can't take a hit.
I was thinking you needed some water.
Yeah, I can tell. That's what you feel like. What is this woman's problem? And I'm thinking, what is this woman's problem?
Well, that's because the last time you told us that's your time. So that's what I was waiting for you to say, that's your time.
But do you notice that most people don't wait for me to do that? They time it just right. I love y'all, but y'all know how to break this up. Y'all, we got an event next week. We have an event next week. It is in the group. It is in the cafe, the ambassadors, and I will put it on my page. Make sure you sign up for next week with Jason Frost, Shakir Rashawn, Steve Barnes, and J.L. Woodson. I hope you guys can join us. Yeah, I needed that laugh. That was hilarious. I'm like, but the biggest part, I'm telling you, I coughed, you looked up, and he kept on reading.
Michele was like,
story to tell.
She got muted and was still going.
He's not getting the hit. Let me just put her on mute. Man.
Did I unmute myself and keep on going?
I know, right? If you had done that would have been, oh my God, I would have been.
That would have been funny. Oh, the mute slip. Let me fix that.
Y'all are, man, y'all so silly. Y'all are so silly. All right, everybody, we thank you guys for Tribe. I need you guys to stay on. Thank you all for joining in with us tonight. and hearing the readings from the tribe. Some of you guys have been here all day, well, since early this afternoon, and we thank you for being part of the Cavalcade of Authors Reader Appreciation Weekend. Go and buy you some books. Hope you found some new people to